Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Engage A podcast. I am Josh and my co-host Mike. Today we are going to be recapping every game for week 6 of the NFL season except for Monday Night Football. We'll cover that in our next episode. We're going to go game by game, giving you our thoughts on each game, and then at the end we're going to give our studs and duds for week 6. We're going to start off here with the 49ers and Seahawks Thursday night football. The 49ers win this one 36-24. Massive bounce back win for the Niners. They desperately needed this one to get back to 500. It's never easy to play in Seattle, regardless of my thoughts on this team right now. It's never easy to play there, so it's a huge win for them. Seahawks running struggles are from earlier on in the year are back. They were winning those games because their opponents were so bad. We've talked about it so many times on here. Bo Nix, Skylar Thompson, and Jacoby Brissett were the first three quarterbacks they played. They went 3-0. They didn't run the ball well in most of those games, and then they ran it well against the Lions, and then they lost, and then they ran it well. They ran it okay against the Giants, and then they lost, and then their struggles came back in this one. They could not get it done. Geno Smith had to throw it 52 times in this game, and he wasn't great. He threw a couple picks, very uncharacteristic from Geno. Geno Smith's value is he doesn't turn the ball over. So when he's turning the ball over, his value really, really diminishes, and it's tough for the Seahawks. Jordan Mason gets hurt in this game. Maybe you know the status of him. I don't know the status of him at this very moment, but Isaac Girando went in for San Francisco, and he was solid 10 for 99. I mean, you could put anybody in the system and they run the ball well. It just, you're never worried really when they lose a running back. People have kind of forgotten about Christian McCaffrey at this point, but he is still out. So who knows what we'll see from this running back group, but it doesn't really matter. Brock Purdy was much better in this game. 3 touchdowns, no picks. Seattle gets 9 penalties. You have to clean that up. They got some guys back on defense, but they're still banged up. They still do not have Byron Murphy, their rookie D tackle. He needs to come back for them. San Francisco wins this turnover battle 3-0 in this one. Their defense for San Francisco is better than their offense. Their offense, the statistics and the scoreboard are a little bit deceiving. They did definitely leave some points off the board. They were in great position over and over and over in this game. And it seemed like for a while they were kind of playing with their food, and then they kind of took care of business there at the end of this game. But they still end up getting the 36 points regardless. They have a Super Bowl rematch next week against Kansas City. That game's going to be phenomenal. And Seattle has now lost 3 straight and starting 3-0.
Yeah, Seattle continues to kind of struggle after playing three pretty easy teams. They've struggled. Turnovers killed them in this one. Like you said, 2 interceptions for Geno Smith. Can't have that. Did throw for 312 yards, but wasn't enough. They get a nice kickoff return touchdown with Laviska Shenault. So shout out Laviska Shenault. Battled through a lot of injuries. Other than that, their offense really wasn't great. They passed the ball all right, but Kenneth Walker couldn't get it going on the ground. And in the passing game, they really didn't have too much of a scoring threat. DK Metcalf was kind of quiet in this one, 3 for 48. They've shown that they can beat up on the bad teams, but they've yet to really show that they can beat up on these solid, good teams. So that's hard to see. And for the 49ers, it's back. Great to get back on track. Brock Purdy was very good in this one. 255 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Got the ball to Deebo Samuel a little bit. Only 3 catches, but 102 yards. Had that big 75, 76-yard touchdown. That was huge for him. And George Kittle continues to be maybe the best tight end in the NFL right now. 5 catches, 58 yards, had 2 touchdowns. Kyle Juszczyk also gets a touchdown. Like you said, Jordan Mason does pick up an AC joint sprain injury. It's considered mild. I saw that he was practicing today in a non-contact uniform, so hopefully he'll be ready to go by the weekend. But they have so many guys that can step up and make plays that I trust this 49ers team regardless. Very interested for that game next week. I think they're 1-point favorites going to play Kansas City, so we'll see.
Are they at home in that game or are they in KC?
I thought they were in Kansas City.
They're
Or I think they were at home.
favorites. I was about to say there's no way they're favorites in Kansas City.
I know the Niners were favorites opening up. It looks like it's in San Francisco.
Yeah, it has to be. Okay, that makes a little more sense, but that should be a great game. Moving on here to the London game, the second of I think three. I think there's one more next week with the Jags and the Patriots, but the second
Yeah,
or
for
no,
London.
is it three? Oh yeah, because last week Vikings just, but second of
For
three
London for that
here.
game.
You said what?
For London for that game, man.
Yeah, right. That is a brutal matchup, but Jags can get a win, so a little W for the home fans there.
It
But
is in a new stadium. That's the one difference.
yeah, where is it? Is it
Is that
Wembley?
Wembley? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Bears here over the Jacksonville Jaguars by a final score of 35 to 16. Bears get win number 4 heading into the bye. They're sitting at 4-2. Their offense started really, really slow in this game. It looked like this was going to be an easy hit for the Lunder, but they hit a gear towards the second half of that, or towards the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half. Caleb Williams throws for 4 tutties in this game, and they just explode offensively there. From quarters, they scored all of their 35 points in the last 3 quarters of this game. Another solid game for DeAndre Swift as he goes 17 for 91 in this one and a tutty. Jags just could not run the ball at all. ETN got hurt early in this one. The Bears were not stopping the run phenomenally before this game. They had a great year last year stopping the run, and they hadn't had a great start stopping the run this year, but they had a great game against the run in London over the Jags. The Bears are getting a ton of hype right now. I don't know if you saw Mike after the game. Did you stay on NFL Network after the game or did you move to Fox?
I moved to Fox.
It
Yeah, I
it
moved to
was
CBS.
it was bad on NFL Network. They were talking about Caleb Williams MVP. They were talking about
Oh, that's
Bears
crazy.
going deep in the playoffs.
It wasn't
They
Mooch, was it?
it was all I can't even remember exactly who it was. It might no, it was Mooch because the rest of them were in
Oh
London.
no.
And they don't have Michael Irvin anymore. But um, Bears 4 wins this year are against teams with a combined record of 4-18. So let's pump the brakes on beating the Jags, the Titans, the who else did they beat? The Jags, the Titans, the Rams, and I can't even remember who their other win is over. Jags, Titans, Rams,
Panthers.
Panthers. Yeah, Panthers. There you go. So I'm definitely not going to go that far. I still think, as of today, they're the worst team in their division. Uh, pretty easily, to be honest, in my opinion. Bears hype is just getting out of control a little bit, but they will come back to earth. They have you looked forward at their schedule?
Yeah, I think I saw they have the hardest remaining schedule in football,
I
so
didn't know that was true, but weeks 11 to 18, they got Packers, Vikings, at Lions, at Niners, at Vikings, Lions, Seahawks, at Packers. So that's a gauntlet. I mean, it's a gauntlet for all the teams in the NFC North at this point, but the other teams I think are just more prepped for that gauntlet than the Bears are. The Jags, though, they're still dead. Peterson, he may get fired before the team gets back to the States. Honestly, it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, the Bears are taking care of business against the bad teams. Let's see if they can finally beat a good team.
yeah, I know the Bears have, I think, the hardest remaining strength of schedule. I can't remember who was the easiest, but they pick up a win they needed to here. This game kind of went a little bit how I planned it to go. Bears just are able to pass all over the Jaguars defense,
Probably like
and
the
the
Bills or
Jaguars,
something. I'd assume the
I,
Jets,
I want to say it was the Colts, but I could
or
be
it's going to be
wrong.
one of the teams in the AFC South or AFC East, probably.
I mean, the AFC South, we do have the NFC North, so that's a tough division. So,
Yeah, it's true. I'm just trying to think of the divisions that have bad records because they all play
yeah,
each other. I'd assume. Was I'll look
that's
it up. You can
true.
continue.
That's true for the AFC South, but the Jags' passing offense was atrocious again for Trevor Lawrence. He does throw for 234 yards, 2 touchdowns, but does have a bad pick. Again, they're unable to run the ball. If you're a Travis Etienne fantasy owner, I'm sorry, but it's your fault for drafting him. I could kind of see this fall off coming. I think he was going in like second rounds of fantasy football drafts, which is crazy, but he finishes, I think, with negative half a point in this game, which is it's hard to do. Doug Peterson continues to get warmer and warmer after this 1-5 start. It's going to be very hard to make the playoffs right now in the NFL, starting 1-5, especially in a division where you have a team like the Texans. I think they might have played the Texans once. You got to play the Colts again. Luckily, they get the Titans, but you still got to play the other NFC North teams. That's not good. The only bright spot for the Jags was they get back Evan Engram. He has 10 catches for 102 yards. He looked very good, but the rest of your receiving core really doesn't. Brian Thomas was okay, but Gabe Davis drops a touchdown. He does catch two in the game, but dropped one in the early in the game, which hurt. And like I said, their defense just did not look good. They didn't have the pass rush I expected them to have to kind of keep this game close. They got ran over by DeAndre Swift. He had 91 yards on the ground. Caleb Williams had a couple big scrambles as well. Just a big game for Caleb Williams. Nice to enter his name back in the offensive rookie of the year category. 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, 226 yards passing. He was great. Finally got Keenan Allen involved a lot. He has 2 touchdowns. He had kind of been quiet for most of the year, but he gets two there. And Cole Kmet seems to have a game like this every couple weeks. He has 2 touchdowns and 70 yards receiving. So great for the Bears offense to get going. They're going to have to continue to get better and better as they approach the second half of the season and that tough schedule.
Yeah, we were all over it. It's Bears, Lions, Green Bay are 1, 2, 3 on remaining schedule for the hardest, and then bottom three, Buffalo, Miami, New England. So
Yeah,
yeah, so NFC North, amazing, AFC East, horrible. But I think those the Texans record is definitely impacting this heavily because
yeah, probably.
I'm not seeing any of the South teams here at the bottom. In fact, Jacksonville's at 11, Tennessee 9. It's because they have to play the NFC North, but regardless, we'll move on here
I thought the Colts had one of the
to
easier ones.
Colts are 19,
Really
right between Kansas City and Washington.
interesting.
But
I
yeah,
remember seeing us at like three, I thought.
I know the Lions play like the whole AFC South like all at once. It's like 4 and 5 weeks or something like that. So I
Yeah,
can't wait
the
for
schedule
that.
was. I mean, the Bears started off with
They
what
just played the
three?
AFC South, yeah.
Yeah, AFC
Colts,
South was
Titans,
weird.
Texans, and now yeah, they just finished this week. So yeah, we'll move on here though to the Commanders and Ravens. We were right on this one, but so was Vegas. They were all over it completely. Nailed this line at -7 for the push. Very close on the scoreboard, but if you watch this game, the Ravens were in control throughout. And I'm actually gonna go on a bit of a tangent here, but the reason I love the London game, and I don't even always watch the full game. Like I was out in the morning, I missed the first half of the Bears game, and then I came back and watched the second half. But the reason I love the London game is because you get 6 games in that window for 12 o'clock, and 6 is the perfect number. Anything more than 6 is a little hard to manage. Anything less than 6 is kind of like I want a full slate, but 6 is perfect. You can get the 4 box on one, the 2 box on the other screen, and you could actually watch each game. And where I don't have to use red zone the whole day, that's just ideal. And that's why I feel like I have a better grasp of these games without being going back and forth and seeing red zone touchdowns and whatnot. But regardless, this game was closer or not as close as it looks on the scoreboard. Another pretty solid game for Jaden Daniels. He wasn't as good in this one. His past two have been a little bit underwhelming after those first few weeks, but he's still been great. Lamar threw a bad pick on the first drive of this game, but after that he was phenomenal. He's really come into his own as a passer. These past 2 years, like seeing what Lamar has done, I I'm gonna say it right now. I think Lamar is the second best quarterback in the league. Now I'm putting him over Josh Allen.
Oh, oh yeah,
I
oh
don't
yeah.
want to take a prisoner of the moment, but he's an elite passer now, and no one's touching him on foot. He's been just so good. There was no run game for the Commanders without Brian Robinson. They really need him. Like Brian Robinson has come out of the gate hot this year. He's been one of the better fantasy running backs. They need him. That was a strength of their offense was their run game going into this one. We know the Ravens are one of the best run defenses in the league. It's them and the Lions right now, and they were not able to run the ball at all in this one. Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers each go for 132 yards in this one. They were both fantastic. Baltimore, just 3 penalties, very disciplined. They're up to 4 straight wins now after that 0-2 start. And for the Commanders, they showed they can compete with the best. This is a fine loss for them. They were in this game the whole time. Were the Ravens in control and winning for most of it? Yes, but the Commanders were in this game and they had a chance to win it over and over and over. So the Commanders, I do think, are a legit team. As much as I can have concern about the secondary, and Jonathan Allen went out for the year with a torn pec. We got that news today, but my concern I have so many concerns with this defense, but maybe it's Dan Quinn. He's able to coach this defense to a point where maybe they don't have the most talent, but they're competing in games and this offense is super talented. So I I despite the loss here and despite us picking the Ravens, I learned a lot about the Commanders this game, and I feel a lot better about them going forward. And the Ravens are a juggernaut. They're a top 5 team easy.
Yeah, not a question. Going in this game, I said I thought the Ravens would really control the time of possession, and that happened. Ravens had the ball for about 36 minutes, so the Commanders' defense tired going against Lamar Jackson and this Ravens offense. Derrick Henry again, 24 carries. Doing that at his age is crazy, but 132 yards as well, 5.5 yards a carry, has 2 touchdowns. Again, I think he's had a touchdown in every game. As expected, this Baltimore rush offense is almost unstoppable. They have almost 500 yards of offense in this one. Lamar also still throws for over 300 passing yards. I really don't know what you have to do or what you can do to stop this offense right now. It's very challenging. Zay Flowers, 9 catches, 130 yards in this game. I think that was all in the first half.
Yeah.
I saw that he broke a bunch of Ravens records just in a half for that. So good for him. Mark Andrews gets a touchdown as well. Jane Daniels and the Commanders' offense did all right. He throws for 269 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like you said, they had no run game. Jane Daniels had been receiving a lot of praise going into this game. maybe they were saying he's the MVP of the league right now. But what's the phrase? I have it here. Yeah, a Chrysler 300 looks like a Phantom until a Phantom pulls up.
Yep,
So Lamar
exactly.
Jackson's just that guy.
Yeah, the current MVP of the league is probably on the other side. That's what I was gonna say. Like Lamar is I can't sing enough praises about Lamar. But well, I mean, he's just a completely different player than he was when he won that first MVP. He's
Yeah,
so much better of a passer now
he
than he
can,
was then. Like
all he has to do is perform in the playoffs, man. That's all he has to
that's
do.
it. That's all
Please.
he has to do.
That's the
And
only flaw in his career at all.
because honestly, he's probably a better regular season quarterback than Mahomes. But
Oh yeah,
it is what it is. You got to win.
just
That's all that
yeah.
really matters at the end. But
And I think part of that, I mean, I think Harbaugh's a great coach, but I think Andy Reid's just a little bit better,
yeah, they're
especially
both
in
great.
big games like
They
that.
both they're both great. They both have great coaches. They both have great defenses for usually. They usually have great weapons. Lamar didn't for a while in his career. Now he does, and now you're seeing the fruits of his labor with his weapons. But yeah, well, it's gonna be very interesting to see how that AFC race leads out. But for me, it's no question that the Ravens are in the top five, regardless of if there's teams with better records. I'm there. You can't convince me that the Ravens are worse than the Vikings. I don't care if the Vikings are undefeated.
Yeah, I agree
But
completely.
that's neither here nor
We'll
there.
see what
But
happens if those two teams would play. Lamar's taking over.
oh well, yeah, because it's the NFC. So
It's
I'm
the NFC.
saying if the Lions get to the Super Bowl, I'd rather play Kansas City. But
Yeah, it's the only
um,
hope.
moving on here to Texans at Patriots. Texans dominated this one. Mixon coming back did wonders for Houston. They've been deadly in the run game when he's been in the lineup, and they've been kind of helpless without him. So he comes back in and he immediately dominates. Stroud was very efficient despite having one pick in this one. He was very efficient. How many picks does he have on the year now? Because he has a few. He's got to be like pushing five. I think he has at least four.
Four.
He
He's
has
got four.
four. Okay.
10 TDs, four picks.
Yeah. Okay. So he had what, five last year? Six? It was low. It was very low. But he's probably going to beat that this year. That's fine. That was a ridiculous rookie year. I don't hold that against him at all if he has more picks this year than he did his first year. It's not regression. Texans have looked phenomenal. They're sitting at 5-1. Their one loss is to one of the two undefeated teams right now. So Houston really starting to emerge as a top team. This is another team that I would consider getting close to the top five. I'd have to like actually count what teams I would have in there, but they're definitely in that for me. And their defense has been a huge part of the reason for that. Their defense has come out hot this year. They've been really, really good for every game except for that aforementioned Minnesota game where they lost. And they have been a big part of the reason that the Texans have been so good this year. We knew what their offense was going to be, but even at times, their offense hasn't looked fantastic. Their defense has been consistent. They put the offense in good spots, and the offense has enough talent where if they're in good spots, they're going to be able to capitalize. So they were phenomenal in this one. Moving on to the Patriots, though, Drake May was pretty solid in his first game. 3 touchdowns. It's hard. It's basically all you can ask for, despite if he has two picks. The New England run game was horrendous outside of Drake May. Drake May went into this game against a good Texans defense with no run game, virtually no receivers, and puts up 243 and 3 touchdowns. That's impressive to me. At this point, there is no, and he's pretty quick too. People, when he first came in that, forget what game it was. I think it was the Jets primetime game. When he first came in for Brissett, he had a couple runs where he started to look quick. He looked quick in this game too. I think he has legs and he's been able to scramble. He seems like he knows what he's doing in there. He wasn't horrible. They're at this point, I don't see a reason to play anyone but Drake May. He's shown he could be okay. Like he was good. I would say he was good in this game. Can he do this every game? Maybe not. But he's at least okay, and he's just going to get better. And at this point, there's no reason to bench him for anybody else. I think they should let him go the rest of the way. Let him learn on the job. As far as the Patriots winning this game, they didn't think they were going to win this game. They turned the ball over 4 times. They really virtually had no chance. But yeah, my takeaways from this game is Houston is as good as advertised. They need Mixon, and Drake May is good enough to start in this league.
Yeah, I think he's good enough to start in this league. I don't think this would have been the game I would have thrown him in there against this Texans defense that has been very hot so far this season, but it's too late for that. He plays all right, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. His first touchdown was a very nice pass downfield. I think it was to Keyshawn Boutte. He was great. He had 3 touchdown passes in this game. That's more than Jacoby Brissett threw in 5 weeks combined. And like I said, it was against a good defense with his offensive line struggling. I think he was sacked 4 times, 3 by Will Anderson, who was starting to maybe put together a little bit of a defensive player of the year resume with unfortunately. I guess we'll talk about that later. Maybe the leader going down. Um,
The leader
yeah.
in
Joe
every book.
Mixon. Joe Mixon was phenomenal in this game, like you said, 132 yards and 2 touchdowns on only 15 touches. Damian Pierce gets 8 touches for 76 yards. When those two guys are there, this run game for Houston has been phenomenal. Like I said, their defense forced 3 turnovers. And in the passing games, Tank Dell finally has a big game, first one of the year for him. 7 catches, 57 yards, and a touchdown. Stephon Diggs gets 677 and a touchdown. So nice for them to really get going with the kind of shocking Nico Collins going on IR as quick as he did. So nice win for the Texans up to 5-1. They got to continue to beat these teams. And the Patriots, you know what you are. So you're 1-5. Just keep improving that draft pick.
Couldn't wait for me to get the jersey on. Keep talking.
Oh, poor
I
Aiden
fit.
Hutchinson.
You reminded me of it. I gotta. There's no reason I shouldn't have this on. But we can move on here to the Browns and Eagles. We were right. You tried to get me to pick against my Browns, and they came through and got me a betting win. And this one, they covered the 8.5, 20-16. We knew this game was probably going to be low scoring, and for some reason, the line was so egregious for a game that probably wasn't going to have a ton of points. So it was fairly easy to take the Browns in this one. The Browns were still horrible offensively though, as they moved to 1-5 in this one. Deshaun was efficient, I guess, but he can't find the end zone at all costs. This was the one game on the 6 screens that I was trying to tone out a little bit because it was just it's tough to watch at times, to be honest. Just no run game for the I almost said the Cavs for the Browns. They should start thinking about the Cavs, honestly. But no run game for this team. I am terrified for Nick Chubb in a couple weeks when he has to play with this O line coming off of an ACL, MCL. He's missed the last. Oh, he's over a year now, right? It was like week 4 that he got hurt last
Yeah.
season, so it's over a year now. At this point, I don't even know if you play him, but the Browns defense was much better today. I don't know if if it's them though or if it's Philly because I have so many question marks about Philly's offense. Their offense has to be better than it was today. We saw this Browns defense despite having a lot of talent, despite having Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett, despite having Denzel Ward, this unit has not been great so far this year, and Philly just has to be better offensively than they were. They score 20 points in this one, but still, they just really looked clunky all day. The Eagles' problem is they just do not have an identity offensively. When they made the Super Bowl, they had an identity. They could run the ball down your throat, and there's nothing you could do about it. And they had a quarterback who could also run the ball, but also had a decent arm. There was always that little bit of can he make the right decision? He sometimes kind of makes some boneheaded plays. And then a year later happened, and we saw last year, and it's, oh, wow, Jalen Hurts is a concern. They can't run the ball as well. They have secondary issues. And then and Nick Sirianni sucks. And then we get into this year and it's, oh, Jalen Hurts is even more of a question mark. Now the offensive line is worse because we don't have Jason Kelsey. The secondary might get a little better, but they're really young and your veteran just got hurt for who knows how long Darius Slay is going to be out. So now that's a concern. And you have a head coach who's an absolute idiot in Nick Sirianni. This, oh my, I don't think the Eagles are going to make the playoffs. I really don't. I just, I don't see it. They don't have an identity. That's completely on coaching. I think they're going to miss the playoffs and they're going to cut Sirianni. I just think that's what they have to do at this point. They don't turn the ball over in this one. They just didn't look clean offensively. It was Saquon's first bad game. I think Saquon will be better. I don't think this team is going to be horrible, but I mean, they're absolutely not a contender at this point, in my opinion.
Wow, a lot of hate. They did get back AJ Brown and Devontae Smith in this game. AJ Brown was very good, 6 catches, 116 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Smith, 3 catches, 64 yards and a touchdown. So good for them to get Jalen Hurts his top 2 weapons back. But I agree, I don't think they were won this game as convincingly as they should. And even after the game, we see Nick Sirianni flexing all over the Cleveland Browns fans who are dealing with a 1-5 team and just
What
in
did he do? I got the notification about that. I didn't
he
see
was
what he
doing the
did.
thing he did against the Colts a couple years ago where he was like screaming at the fans, like walking and talking trash to the
Oh, he was
fans.
doing that.
Yeah.
I heard he
I don't really know.
apologized too.
Yeah, he apologized. I don't know. And then, well, the funniest part is he went into his press conference and brought his kid with him so he could shield
Yep.
himself from
Yep.
getting questions like that.
Classic move.
Yeah.
He thought he was slick with that too. And they
Yeah.
still grilled him. They didn't care.
Yeah. So Sirianni, you're still a kind of a scumbag. And you're gonna have to coach better if you want to keep this team going because this Browns team stinks and you struggled to beat them. Deshaun Watson puts up his second best QBR of the season, I'm pretty sure, at 34.6, which is absolutely atrocious. He passes for 168 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. I think they were showing it on CBS that the Browns at one point, I think were 0 for their last 26 on third downs, which is just an absurd number. Um, they get into the Eagles' red zone one time in this game. Or they, yeah, they were held under 200 yards every game this season. They have one touchdown in their past 29 drives. Their offense just isn't good, and their defense, while it did play a little bit better, holding this Eagles offense to 20, maybe that's a good sign. But Myles Garrett had to really take over. They blocked a field goal for a touchdown, and of course, there's Myles Garrett getting the block. So their defense really is the only reason they were in this game, as expected, and their offense just has to figure it out.
Yeah,
And they're
it's
not going to figure it out.
you're talking about for Cleveland, right?
Yes, for Cleveland.
Yeah. I was about to say I think the Eagles can figure it out. I just don't know if they will.
Yeah.
But
The Browns do get Nick Chubb back next week, so
yeah. Ugh,
that's
man, I'm not looking forward to that.
maybe that's a trade candidate though. Let him play good for a couple weeks
Yeah.
and get something for him.
Yeah, who's trade? Is he on? He's got to be under contract though,
Oh yeah.
and nobody's trading for a running back coming off injury under big contract. No chance somebody's trading for that, unless they want to give up like a 6th round pick. And in that case, we'll take Zadarius Smith for a 6th rounder too if we're fire
Yeah.
scaling now. But Um, we'll move on to the Green Bay Packers beating the Arizona Cardinals 34-13. Packers were in control for most of this game here. Jordan Love looked like himself for the first time in America this year. He didn't play good since in his first game back from injury. He missed 2, and then his last game we saw him look good was in Brazil. He has 4 touchdowns here in this one. The Packers did not run the ball as much as I expected, or as well as I expected them to here. You get 18 carries for Josh Jacobs. He only goes for 62. Emmanuel Wilson was a little bit better, 7 for 54, but they didn't run it as well as I expected them to at all. But the Packers' run defense, we kind of hinted at it a little bit on the preview about how this is the first good run defense they've had in a few years now, at least the last 5 years, and that continues. The Cardinals have been running the ball fairly well, and their run defense was crazy in this one. The Packers was, and that is so huge for them, especially in a division that is led by the most dominant run team in the league and the Lions. The fact that the Packers can stop the run definitely puts them in a position to compete in those games, and that's huge for them. The Packers defense as a whole this year, I think they might still, in my opinion, I still think they're the second best team in the North. I'd still probably go Lions, Packers, Vikings, Bears at this point. I know the Vikings are 5-0. I know they're the most hyped up team in the league. I just can't confidently say that Sam Darnold's going to be able to do it for a full year. I just can't say that. And I think their defense is going to be a great unit, but still, I think the Packers and the Lions are both more well rounded at this point. In this game, huge day for McBride. He's been due for the Cardinals. He was good in this one. The Cardinals offense, though, 4 punts and 3 fumbles in this one, just bad. They have not really been good since that week 2 Rams game. They were good in Buffalo game 1 against a shaky Buffalo defense. They were good against a beat up Rams team in week 2, and their offense has not looked great since then. Marvin Harrison Jr. goes out with a concussion in this one. That is pretty brutal for them. But for the Cardinals, they have the Chargers, Dolphins, Bears as their next 3. The Chargers and Bears are good teams. The Dolphins, who knows without Tua, but those are 3 winnable games. They can get back on track if they can win 2 of those. We'll see if they do. And for the Packers, they got a huge game next week in Lambeau versus the Texans. I can't believe that game's a 1 p.m. game. We really get Packers, Texans, Lions, Vikings all at 1 p.m. Ugh.
Yeah. Brutal. A good game for the Packers here. Obviously, they dominate this game. The NFC North continues to, I think they're holding all 4 spots that they possibly can in the playoff picture right now. Is that right?
What are you saying?
All 4 NFC North teams hold a spot in the playoffs as of right now.
Do they?
I think so. Because I mean Bears 4-2, 4-2, Lions 5-1.
I mean, gotta be. I'd assume at this point.
Yeah.
Because second place, and I don't think there's a 2-loss team in second place in any of the other divisions. So
Yeah.
that would make sense.
So the NFC North just continues to dominate over the
That won't
entire
last though.
NFL.
They've
I don't
only
think it
played
will,
one
but
game in
yeah.
division.
Romeo Dobbs comes back this week. He gets 2 touchdowns. Good for him. Seems to be getting better. Christian Watson also catches a touchdown. Jaden Reed gets a touchdown, but I think he left the game early due to injury. I think he
Ankle.
will be all right though, hopefully. They have 9 different players with at least a catch in this game, really spreading the ball out. Very impressive for Jordan Love. 258 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. The Packers offense is starting to find Cardinals defense has had moments, but hasn't been great this season. Kyler Murray wasn't great in this one, 214 yards and a touchdown, but like you said, the run game was bad, and they got on very early, wasn't good, and 3 fumbles as a team. One for James Conner, Kyler Murray, and Greg Dortch all fumbled, and they all lost them. Can't be having that. Turnovers are going to kill you, especially if you're playing a team like the Packers that can score and score quickly. A lot of points off turnovers, but like you said, they also lost Marvin Harrison Jr. Um, Cardinals 2-4. They've won some games we didn't expect them to win, like against the Niners. They beat up on the Rams, but they're gonna have to. They get a couple easier games coming up that they're gonna have to start winning. So I think
Hey,
they're kind of just. I don't think they're a playoff team.
you talking about the Cardinals or the Packers?
Cardinals. Cardinals.
Yeah, no, I sadly agree at this point, despite them getting that early season hype, and then the Commanders just fucking ripped it from them when they beat them in
Yeah.
week 4. But moving on here to your Colts beating the Titans 20-17 as the Colts moved to 500 on the year. Flacco was not nearly as good in this game as he was before. He only threw 1 pick, but that pick was kind of brutal to be honest. The Colts defense though showed up. They completely showed out. It says a lot about Will Levis. We'll get to that one in a little bit, but the Colts run game was what are some words I would use to describe it? Disgusting.
It's not
Without
great.
Jonathan Taylor, it was. I mean, watching Trey
One
Sermon run the
run.
ball.
We had one run. That was it.
I don't even think I caught that one. Oh, it was the Goodson. Yeah, it was the big ass Goodson run. Yeah,
That was
I
it. Yeah.
watching Trey Sermon just run for 1 yard, 1 yard. Oh my
That
god,
was pissing me off.
it was really really. I bet on the Titans and it was tough to watch. Honestly, like that was brutal. It looks like it's going to be AR next week. I think Steichen said I forget his exact verbiage. It
Yeah.
was it was
He's good to
unless
go.
there's a setback or something like that. He said, but yeah,
Yeah.
so it'll be AR, I guess. Josh Downs is a weapon. I think he's going to be a fantastic player. I really do. I think he's going to be really, really good. And Pittman was about to go on IR, then he didn't go on. I think he was about to go. I think we thought he was on IR last time we recorded, and then he ended up playing in this game. He caught a touchdown, but he for the most of the game he didn't do much. That's kind of been his MO. That's kind of what he did last week too. He caught a touchdown right off rip and then didn't do much after that. He's a very tough player if you own him in fantasy. What to do with him is I don't know. You never really know. At this point, I'm benching him in a 4 wide receiver league essentially. But Colts run defense wasn't great in this one. Pollard had a ton of success. We don't expect a ton from this Colts unit. They've looked good at sometimes when they needed to. They looked horrible at other times, but their secondary was so good in this one. They didn't need that. Crazy the secondary for the Colts had a great day. We talked about how this is a chance for Will Levis and the Titans. They have the weapons that maybe they could be able to do something in this game. See if they could do anything, and they just were not able to do so. 11 penalties for 113 yards for the Titans cost them this game, including a PI that quite literally cost them this game. Changed the completely changed the game for the Titans, and they had basically no chance after that. Once the Colts went up late in this one, it kind of just felt over for Tennessee. I know they had a chance late, and they had a couple chances late, but it just kind of felt like they had no chance to move the ball deep. And then, I mean, Calvin Ridley, no catches, 1 rush for 9 yards. Just ugh.
8 targets.
Yeah, I didn't even see that 8 targets. Wow.
Sam Womack Island, baby.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah, I'll start with the Colts offense. It wasn't great in this game, but they got the job done. Joe Flacco, 189 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like you said, Trey Sermon wasn't good in this one, 18 carries, 29 yards. He's really just a hot and cold runner. Today was very cold and it was tough to watch. Josh Downs continues to be the best receiver, I think, on this team. So definitely so far this season right now, fantasy points wise per game, I think he's chilling right at the same level as like Mike Evans. He's been phenomenal. Mo Cox solid. Like you said, Pittman was quiet for most of the game, but just like last year, he had a game-winning touchdown in overtime. This year, he gets the game-winning touchdown in regulation. Has another big third down conversion later in the game to help kind of put the game away. AD Mitchell, 2 catches for 9 yards. He still had some great routes. Was open deep late a couple times, and Joe Flacco missed him. And I don't see anybody criticizing Joe Flacco for his missed deep balls, but if it was Anthony Richardson, they would be all over that. That pisses me off. But got the win. Alec Pierce doesn't have a catch in this game, but has a couple targets that he was able to draw pass interference on, especially the one late. That was huge. He's somehow makes an impact even with zero catches. Now to the Colts defense, I don't even know how to explain it really. They only gave up 17 points. They only gave up 95 yards, but they somehow, I mean, they did good, but they still almost looked bad. I don't know how to explain it. The third and 20-ish, I think. The Titans run a halfback draw up the middle. They get a 35-yard rushing touchdown. I've never been I didn't even know how to react. It was just a delayed halfback draw, 35-yard rushing touchdown. You should have had him at about 5 to 10 yards. They weren't even trying to get the first down, and you somehow give up a touchdown to Tony Pollard. That was just so frustrating. Right? They hold 95. They hold Will Levis to 95 passing yards. D Hop only 4 catches for 54 yards, and like you said, Calvin Ridley no catches on. The Colts picked up Sam Womack from IR, or not from IR, from the 49ers practice squad. And ever since he started, he has been great for them. Kind of just a hidden gem. With Kenny Moore out, he was great last week. He was great this week. For the Titans, I don't know what you do at this point. Will Levis looked solid last year. I wouldn't say great, but he looked solid. He looked like he had a future in the NFL. He looked like an NFL quarterback. But this year under Brian Callahan, I can't really say that he has. He's been rough to watch, bad turnovers, just can't throw the ball, especially when you can't throw a ball against a secondary like this. That's really a sign of something bad. I want to put Brian Callahan on fraud watch because I think he is a fraud. I don't think he's that good of a coach at this point because just can't do that. Will Levis was 3 for 10 in the fourth quarter, just 23 yards. They already now have locker room drama with Calvin Ridley. He's been saying he needs targets early in the game. And I'm kind of just shocked that D Hop is still a Tennessee Titan. You think he would have in the offseason found his way out of there, but he's with this offense that just is not good. And their secondary did all right. Their defense did a fine job against the Colts, but wasn't great as the defense still should have done enough to win this game. It's just Will Levis couldn't get it done.
Okay, moving on here to our final game of this first slate. The Buccaneers beat the Saints 51-27. This was just truly a wild game. Like
Yeah.
the first half of this game is one of the craziest first halves I think I've maybe ever watched. You see, not only does Tampa Bay put up 17 in the first quarter, you see New Orleans put up 27 in the second quarter. It was just wild to see this game go 27-24 at half, 51 points in the first half of this game, and they finished with 78 total. Bucks went up 17-0 in the first quarter, and then after they went up 17-0 honestly, when Chris Olave got smacked and they recovered that fumble and took it to the house and they went to commercial for like an hour and a half, that was like when this game took a complete turn. You see Baker throw 3 picks seemingly all at once, and almost all of them got tipped as well. You see Sean Tucker come out of nowhere for the Bucks and go 136 yards on 14 carries and a touchdown. He was phenomenal for them. I assume he'll be the waiver target number one here in this coming week. This is the best running game in recent memory in my opinion, for the Bucks. They were able to run it with ease, and this was without Rachaad White. If you're a Rachaad White fantasy owner, sucks for you, sucks for us. It's not looking great, especially with Sean Tucker. It wasn't looking great when Bucky Irving was looking good. Now it's really not looking great with Sean Tucker, but you hate to see it. Godwin has been amazing. He's one of the league's leading wide receivers right now. He's been fantastic. He goes for 125 and 2 touchdowns on 11 catches in this one. He was fantastic. Touchdowns on 4 of the last 5 possessions for Tampa when it looks like they were maybe about to lose this game to Spencer Rattler and the Saints. They really take it over at the end and kill him. Despite 2 interceptions, I'll say it, Rattler was not horrible in this game. He had his moments at times in this one. Goes for 243. It's very, very easy to get down and out as a rookie when you're playing in your first game. You're down 3 scores. I know their defense did so much to help them keep them in this game. I know they got 3 picks, but Rattler didn't seem too phased, which is very impressive to go down like that to such a good team in the Buccaneers and just be okay with it. The Saints defense either got shredded or got a turnover on every single drive. They either got an immediate touchdown for the Bucks, or they turned the ball over and put Rattler in a good spot where he could score. Like I said, Olave, when he got rocked in the first quarter, he did not come back. He has a concussion. The Bucks are completely legit. I think they're a legit team, and the Saints are just a complete mystery team that has now lost four straight.
Yeah, four straight losses. Going into this game, when we made our picks, we didn't know that Derek Carr was going to be out, especially as long as he is. And I guess Vegas did because the line never moved, so we weren't unable to change picks. And I thought going into Sunday, I was rooting for the Buccaneers, thinking that that was my game pick for it, but it wasn't. Spencer Rattler played all right, like you said. They scored 27 straight points, which was very impressive. This was just overall the Buccaneers got hot early, then it was the Saints, and then it went back to the Bucks. Um, just a wild game. Like you said, Sean Tucker, 192 yards and two touchdowns. He was great. Even Bucky Irving was great as well. He had 81 yards on the same amount of carries and a touchdown as well. Had a big, I think it was a reception that looked very good. Chris Godwin, phenomenal, 11 catches, 125 yards and two touchdowns. He has been fantastic so far this season. One of the better receivers in the entire NFL. Buccaneers dominated the first, third, and fourth quarters. Like you said, they won the second half 27 to nothing. Just crazy. They ran for 277 yards as a team, third highest in franchise history. Have a solid pass defense, and their goal in this game really was to run the ball, and they did that phenomenally. They still passed the ball well, 594 yards, which is just phenomenal. Second half, Rattler, he was sacked four times through two picks. Um, Saints have just kind of unraveled with four straight losses. They need to kind of just calm down, but their offense looks like it can do something with Spencer Rattler at quarterback. It'll be interesting to see if he can continue that as we go on. I think they expect Derek Carr to be out for about 4 weeks, so it'll be interesting.
Okay, moving on here to the next slate with the Chargers at Broncos. Chargers win this one 23-16. LA controlled the majority of this game. Denver was shut out all the way until a late comeback in the fourth quarter when they had 16 straight to make this a one-score game. They were down 23-0 at one point. Another solid game for J.K. Dobbins. He's having a great year. We've made it to week 7, knock on wood. He's still healthy and he's having a phenomenal year. Probably the best passing game here of the season for the Chargers. I think that's safe to say against a passing defense that we've been raving about over the past couple weeks has been a really, really hot pass defense. The Chargers came out and they looked all right. Justin Herbert does get sacked 3 times in this one, and I believe Bosa was out for this game. I forget who was out. I think Bosa was out. Slater was in. I'm not positive on that, but if they can continue the passing game and if they can continue a passing game like they did this game, they can have a really solid offense because they're going to be able to run on just about anybody. They weren't able to run on the Steelers. That's a great run defense. They're not going to be able to run on the teams like the Ravens or the Lions. The teams that have these great run defenses, they're going to be in trouble against because they're going to be forced to pass the ball. But most teams do not have phenomenal run defenses. So they're going to be in a good spot to win a lot of games. Bo Nix was himself in this one. Nothing special for him. Virtually no run game for Denver at all in this one. That really killed him. Bo Nix goes 6 for 61. He's the leading rusher. The next was Javonte Williams with 6 carries for 23 yards. I didn't really get to try to run the ball at all in this one. Mainly because they went down by so much, but still, that was a progressive down. They could have ran the ball early, and they just didn't in this one. They lose the turnover battle 2-0. They start the game interception, punt, punt, fumble, punt, punt, punt. It's really, really hard to win a game when you start out like that. But the moral of the story here for me, I still think the Broncos are going to be a solid team. I think they have enough pieces to be a solid team. I don't think they're going to be horrible by any means, and they're definitely not on my list of teams that are out. I also do have a slightly updated list of teams that are out. I'll get to that in a little bit here, but watch out for the LA Chargers. They have a very winnable next 5 games. They currently sit at 3-2. Their next 5 games are at Cardinals, Saints, at Browns, Titans, Bengals. They could very easily go 5-0 in that stretch. I don't know if they will. They can very easily go 5-0 in that stretch. They could very easily go 4-1. I think they go 3-2 at the minimum. And they go 3-2 there. They're sitting at 6-4 at week 11. So I think they're in a pretty good spot. And I'd say watch out for them. I don't know if they're going to be a playoff contender or a team I'd be super scared of in the playoffs, but they're a team that has an easy enough schedule that they could get there. So watch out for them. Let me see. Hold on. Let me see where they rank overall. Overall, they have the 5th easiest schedule in the league going forward. So they got a chance. And the Broncos are on their toughest games. It shows their five toughest games. The Broncos are on there. So
Yeah, this was a good game for the Chargers, everything they needed. A scary start with Harbaugh going out to the locker room, but he comes back, seems to be all right. The Chargers defense was great in this one, forced 2 turnovers in the first half, and offensively they just kind of did what they have been all season. Nothing flashy, just run the ball. Justin Herbert limits the turnovers, throws for 237 and 1 touchdown. Just really didn't make mistakes, and if the Chargers do that, they're going to beat a team like the Broncos almost every time. Broncos, Bo Nix throws for 216 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick, but a lot of that was with a big deficit already. He only had 60. The offense total only had 60 yards in the first half. Bo Nix, that interception was on his third pass of the game. They go down 23 to nothing early. When this offense goes down, they're not an offense that can really play from behind too much, so they're going to have hot starts. Can't be throwing interceptions on that first drive. They still need to find a run game. Javonte Williams has just been ever since the ACL injury a couple years ago. It's been really underwhelming. He only gets 23 yards on 6 carries. Jaleel McLaughlin 3 carries, 8 yards. Just no run game really overall. Cortland Sutton does have a really nice touchdown grab in this one, but their offense just didn't have enough to really keep up with the Chargers. And when the Chargers get ahead like that, they're just going to keep running the ball, and that's what we've seen so far.
right, moving on here to Steelers at Raiders. Steelers win this game 32-13. Most impressive win, I think, so far for Pittsburgh this year. They dominated this one. They looked great offensively. 32 points for them is huge. This was Najee Harris's best game in years for Pittsburgh. He goes for 106 and a touchdown, and for him, that is very, very impressive. I was so happy to see that for him. Fields was nothing special in this game, but he also didn't turn the ball over. And that is the number one thing for him. He doesn't have to be special. He's thrown for 300 yards this year. He doesn't have to do that. He's thrown for multiple touchdowns this year. He doesn't have to do that every game. He has been so consistent not turning the ball over, and that is the number one reason why the Steelers are in the position they are right now. I mean, they have a phenomenal defense, obviously, but because Fields has been so consistent in not turning the ball over, that has been so, so good for him. And it makes it to a point where it's like, I get he only had 100 and something yards this game, but you can't take him out if he's not turning the ball over and they're winning games. You just can't do it. 13 tackles for Patrick Queen. He had a huge game in this one. Steelers win the turnover battle 3-0. AOC and the Raiders just had nothing in this one. Zero run game from them. We predicted that was going to happen, and they just are in a really, really bad spot right now. I hinted at it a little bit. I'm going to do a weekly list of my dead teams. We are at 6 right now for the year, and I have 4 bubble teams as well for this list, but 6 teams that I am marking as dead. Patriots, Browns, Titans, Jaguars, Panthers, and then our new addition this week is the Raiders at 6. So those are my 6 teams that are dead. My 4 bubble teams are the Cardinals, the Bengals, the Saints, and the Dolphins are my 4 bubble teams. If Tua comes back, the Dolphins are getting off that. The Bengals are a loss away from getting on it, but those are where I sit on those teams right now.
Yeah, Raiders just made a quarterback change this week. They do start AOC. Wasn't enough to get this offense going. Still really no run game. Madison 14 carries, 33 yards. Their first drive, they looked like maybe this offense could move the ball very well. They had a very nice touchdown drive to start the game, but after that, really had nothing going. They turned the ball over 3 times. Not going to win many games, and you have 3 turnovers. We've seen that a lot this week. For the Steelers, just a very concerns, but on the ground, he gets 11 carries, 59 yards, rushes for 2 touchdowns again. We've seen him do a lot of rushing this year. That's been great. Najee Harris, like you said, he was phenomenal. As a team, they had 183 total rushing yards, and they moved the ball very well against this Raiders defense. Just another Steelers win. That's how they do it. TJ Watt, forced fumble on the 1 yard line. He was great. And like I said, after that first drive, Steelers just took over, won this game. They're up to 4-2. They have a couple winnable games in the next couple weeks, and then a couple really hard games. They got the Giants next, the 2 New York teams, but then they got to go and play the Commanders and Ravens. So realistically, I can see them going 2-2 in that stretch, but it does seem like they have committed to Justin Fields with him as the QB1 and Russell Wilson as the QB2. We'll just see if they stay confident with that if Justin Fields has a bad half or so.
Yeah, I was looking at that next four too. The Steelers are the type of team where I could legitimately see them going 4-0 and 0-4 in that stretch.
Oh yeah.
All those teams are good enough to beat them, and the Steelers are also good enough to beat all those teams. So that's going to be very interesting for them. If they go 2-2 or 3-1, they're in a great spot.
I think
They,
they go 2-2. I think they split the New York teams and then just find a way to either beat the Commanders or Ravens.
yeah, and I don't even know which of the New York teams they will beat. To be honest, it's a toss up at
And
this
they're
point.
both primetime games, so
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. But moving on here to Falcons and Panthers. Falcons win this game 38-20. Falcons came out and dominated as they had to. Their run game was finally there. We said it would be. We said this was the time that Bijan and Algier could finally get going, and they do. Algier goes for 105. Bijan goes for 95 in this one. Another solid game for Hubbard as well for the Panthers. The only bright spot for their offense was him. It's been basically their only bright spot for the past few weeks now. The Panthers offense has had a decent the excuse me. The Packers offense had a decent amount of success in this one early. They kind of faded in this. They really faded in the second half. They only get 3 points in the second half. But the Panthers had some decent success early in this one. The Falcons defense just figured it out on the last three drives of the game. They completely locked them up. They gave the Panthers no chance. This game is not as much of a blowout as it looks like on paper. But regardless, the Panthers took care of business. They had no chance of stopping Atlanta at any point in this game. And I stand by my same sentiment that I've said for the past 3 weeks now. It makes zero sense to bench Bryce Young for Dalton when you are 1-5 and Dalton has not been that good either. It makes no sense. You're not competing for anything. You don't have your pick. It doesn't matter. Put your rookie quarter or your second year quarterback in. You just drafted number one overall a year ago. It makes no sense to keep Dalton in, and I don't know why they're doing it. We'll see what they do moving forward, but I personally don't get it.
yeah, makes no sense. I'd bet in the Panthers. I thought they were just going to keep this game close, and I thought they would lose. It was looking good for a while, but then the fourth quarter came around, and now the Andy Dalton showed his true colors. He had two interceptions in the fourth quarter, and the Panthers team just kind of fell apart in that last quarter. He throws two touchdowns, two picks, 221 yards. Chuba Hubbard continues to play solid. 18 carries, 92 yards. That's about 5 yards a carry. We did get news that Jonathan Brooks will be activated this week from IR, so he probably won't play in this first week, but he will be practicing most likely and getting ramped up to go maybe next week. So it'll be interesting to see if Chuba Hubbard will stay the RB1 or if Brooks will start to take that over. For the Falcons, nice for them to finally see their run game get going. Algier, 18 carries, 105 yards. Bijan, 15 carries. Algier had a touchdown. Bijan has two. This was maybe the best their rushing attack has looked all season with 198 yards on the ground. Very impressive there. And in the pass game, still got the ball to Drake London, 74 yards and a touchdown on 6 catches. Kirk Cousins passes the ball well, 225 yards and a touchdown. This Panthers defense has been good at some points in the season, but overall, I don't think this is a good defense. I've talked about how I think it's one of the worst ones, and the Falcons showed that 38 points. They got the job done. They need to continue to do that because they're in a neck and neck battle right now with the Buccaneers for first in that division. Right now they have the tiebreaker, so very interesting to see how those two continue to go through the season.
All right, as we move on to the Lions here, I have a ton to say about the Lions between the Hutch injury and the game. So I'll first talk about the Hutch injury. I'll pass it to you to talk about it, and then I'll get into the game after that. So starting with the Hutch injury, this probably would have been maybe in my top 10 Lions games I've ever watched if it wasn't for this injury. Genuinely, it would have been, I can't even imagine or even think about how many more games have been more fun outside of that injury. He's now, of course, out for the year. Dan Campbell was hinting at a chance of the Super Bowl. I don't think that will happen. I doubt that will happen. And even if it's
Oh
a
shit.
possibility, I don't think it's a good idea. If you got to the Super Bowl without him, you can do it without him. You don't need him to come back and hurt himself more for the future. But the Lions, I mean, despite Tom Brady and Burkhardt, as much as I think Brady's actually doing a really good job, they talked about the Cowboys injuries for the entirety of the game up until the Hutch injury. They didn't talk about it after that, but they talked about it for the entirety of the game, almost as much as they were talking about the Lions. They were talking about the Cowboys injuries. Lions are now down both of their best edges. They're down a starting linebacker. They're at their top 11 on defense to start the year. They're at 8 now. So we'll see how they are able to bounce back from that. Hutch was a clear front runner for player of the year at this point in the season. His defensive grade on PFF 94.9, that's first in the league. Pass rush grade at 95, first among D linemen. 45 total pressures first, 8 sacks first, 8 QB hits first, 97 hurries first, 14.7 pass rush productivity grade first, 38.3% pass rush win rate first. He was dogging. There's no doubt about it. This is a giant loss for the Lions, and it significantly impacts the season. But I don't think the Lions are going to trade for a big dog. I think the realistic options, you can go get Landry, you can get Keon White from the Pats. Zadarius Smith is an option. Trayvon Walker, who went a pick before Hutch a couple years ago, is an option. Maybe Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals is an option if they lose a couple more games. For the Lions, as the only silver lining in this injury is the fact that it's before the trade deadline. So you have the option to make moves. Would I personally be willing to mortgage the future for Max Crosby? Yes. I don't think the Lions will, and I don't think they're wrong for not doing that. Brad Holmes has been the best drafting GM in football by a significant margin since he became the Lions GM. There's not a team in the league who's in the same stratosphere as him when it comes to drafting. All of his picks in the first 3 rounds have hit since he got to Detroit. It's not an I don't I'm not against the Lions keeping all their picks and not trading for a guy like Crosby. I get it. Would a guy like Crosby make them not skip a beat? Yes, but I understand why you wouldn't do it. Regardless, this Lions team is different. It's a full team unit. There's a reason why there's some teams in the league who don't have a chance to win despite talent. There's a lot of teams. The Eagles are an uber talented team. They have zero chance to win the Super Bowl because it's a toxic organization who doesn't have anything going for them in the coaching department. The Lions have built a culture here, starting with Dan Campbell. They have two of the best coordinators in the league, and yes, two, including Aaron Glenn this year. They have two of the best coordinators in the league. This is a plug and play team. I think they're still on track to do what they have to do to win the Super Bowl. I don't think this is going to significantly alter the season. Single injuries in football significantly alter the season of teams that aren't prepared for it. The Lions are prepared for it. This isn't basketball. They didn't lose their star point guard for the year. They're going to be fine, but this is a horrid loss, and I hope he has a full recovery. 4 to 6 months is what they're saying.
Yeah, just a big loss for the defense, but offensively for the Lions, they were unstoppable against the Cowboys defense. Goff throws for 315 yards, 3 touchdowns, no pick. I think he has a perfect QB rating. Um, they were able to run the ball with both of their running backs. Montgomery, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs, 63 yards. Jameson Williams continues to be that big play threat that we wanted to see from him. He's been exactly what they needed so far this year. 3 catches, 76 yards, and a touchdown on only 4 targets, but that he's that deep threat that they need. Tim Patrick has a couple big catches. Amon-Ra was quiet, but does get a touchdown in this game. We see a lot of targets to some guys you wouldn't expect to see, maybe like a Taylor Decker. I guess it doesn't count the Penei Sewell play where he almost gets a touchdown. The Lions just toys absolutely embarrassed them all around. One of the more dominating performances this year. And I saw on, I don't know what show that is, but Rex Ryan, I like what he had said about this win for the
Get
Lions
up,
doesn't
probably.
just help them. Yeah, it's probably get up. Doesn't just help them this week. It helps them next week and the weeks after because a lot of these teams are going to go into the game against the Lions and know that this is a team that's just going to punch them in the mouth and are just not going to want to maybe play against a team like this. Cowboys found that out quickly. They went down early. They looked bad on both sides of the ball. Dak, ever since that contract extension, has not looked good. 178 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 picks. They still don't have a run game. They need to figure that out, but we say that every single week. So at this point, we're just beating a dead horse. Game was on Jerry Jones' 82nd birthday, and that Super Bowl is looking less and less likely for him as he goes. I feel bad for him at this point because he just
I
wants
don't.
it. He
I
wants it
don't.
so
I don't
bad
feel a lick
that
bad
it's
for
funny.
him.
Uh, yeah,
He's
I
got
don't
it
know.
all. I don't feel bad
He
for
does have it all, but the one thing he wants, he can't
him.
just
Yeah.
cannot get, and it's that part of it. 7 catches, 89 yards, but other than that, the Cowboys just don't have that big of a receiving weapon. Jake Ferguson was quiet in this one. They need to find they need to find a run game and a second weapon to help them. I'm not even really going to speak on the Cowboys defense because there's really nothing to say. They just got punched in the mouth.
You see Jordan Lewis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just yeah.
Oh, brutal. You
He
hate to see
he,
it.
he got bodied by George Pickens. What was that? A week ago. So
Yeah, tough stretch for him. But yeah, I there was a part of me, and I said to my roommate before the game, I knew that the Lions were gonna try to. I knew they were gonna do some shit where Skipper was eligible, which the Lions do that most games anyways. I know
Oh, I
everyone
didn't.
made
Yeah, I didn't even mention them lining him up as a receiver.
yeah, that was crazy. That part was crazy. I knew they were gonna make him at least eligible. They started the game that way. They wanted to make a statement. But the Lions went full petty mode in this game. Once they realized that they were gonna win, they were just like, fuck it, we're just gonna unload the play. Most teams, you get up by that much, you're gonna sit there, run the ball, not give anybody everything. Ben Johnson must have unlimited plays because he showed everything off. He was like, we're gonna do everything that I mean, Panay should have had that touchdown. He was very close to having that touchdown. He dove from like 5 yards out to get it, but yeah, this game was so fun outside of that Hutch injury. But despite that injury, the Lions still have their eight next best defensive players. They still have Brian Branch, they still have Kirby Joseph, they still have Carlton Davis, Ali McNeil, Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Terry Arnold, DJ Reader. They still have their next eight best players. Branch and Kirby are two guys that I have to talk about. They combined for three interceptions. Branch had two, Kirby had one. Branch also had a forced fumble in this one. By PFF grade, currently they're both ranked in the top five of safeties right now. Kirby four, Branch five. I think Kirby has like four picks already. He's been disgusting. Brian Branch is, in my opinion, no question, top five in the league right now here in year two. Beginning of the year, I wanted to go back and look at my safety rankings at the beginning of the year because I wanted to see how they compare to now. I had Bates, Winfield, Minka, Derwin, and Hamilton as my top five preseason. I look at that and I think Branch is easily number four in that group. And I think you can make an argument for him being two, one, or three. He's in that conversation. He's dominant. He's a phenomenal tackler. He's a great ball hawk. I mean, I don't know if you got to see that first pick he got where it was in the red zone. He faked like he was going towards the flat.
Hmm.
Dak threw to that corner to TD, and it was just a easy pick. He was phenomenal. The Lions were great on both ends in this one. Offensively, Goff was amazing again. 315, three touchdowns. Monty and Gibbs dominated on the ground all game. They should have had way better games, but the Lions wanted to just continue to throw the ball over and over and over and just beat him down. JMO is absolutely electric. He's taking over right now. He is we went in the season being like, all right, this Lions team is loaded. Do they have the wide receiver two? Do they have the wide receiver three to do it? They needed JMO to be that wide receiver two. There's no question in my mind he is now. He's running all kinds of different routes now. He had the one drop, which is the Lions' only drop of the entire season from any of their receivers, lowest in the league. And then Tim Patrick, Mega Tim,
Mega
as you
Tim.
call him, wide receiver. He's wide receiver three now. He just is. He looked great in this one. He looked really good. And that is just that's a sign of just a good team. Like when you could have just pick up guys that weren't on teams and all of a sudden they're there and they're succeeding. He's Josh Reynolds now. Like they found their Josh Reynolds. It's Tim Patrick. And the Lions open this game touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. They never punted in this one. They were phenomenal. They win the turnover battle 5-0. Outside of a few penalties on the first few defensive drives, the defense was amazing. And you could tell the refs were trying to keep in, they're trying to keep the Cowboys in it early. They smelled the blood in the water. They did for a little bit, but after Branch got that pick, it was over. Carlton Davis is playing like an all-pro right now. He had CeeDee Lamb in a box for much of this game. He has been phenomenal for the Lions. Terry Arnold looked a lot better in this game. He had a fumble recovery. He had a big pass breakup on fourth down. He's looking a lot better. I called the Lions blowing out the Cowboys a few weeks ago. I don't know if they're going to do it to this level or even win by double digits next week, but I fully believe the Lions are going to go take care of business next week in Minnesota.
Wow.
But
Hot
you can
take.
is it they are
I
underdogs
mean,
after the Hutch injury now though. The line flipped. They're point and a half dogs now, but we'll see,
has
I guess.
Brees Hall drop early on a
Oh,
third
I
down.
didn't even turn the game on, but you want to get us started with Bengals Giants?
Yeah, I can get us started with Bengals Giants. We were all over it. The Giants were able to stay in this game. Late touchdown from Chase Brown really put the dagger in that one. The Bengals defense actually showed up this week. They were phenomenal. Trey Hendrickson especially was very good. He has 2 sacks on Daniel Jones. They really slowed down the Giants offense. Couldn't get much going. Tyrone Tracy seems was the lead back with Devin Singletary out. He has 50 rushing yards and a touchdown. Was solid in the receiving game as well. 6 catches for 57 yards. Darius Slayton was the leading weapon for the Giants again, 6 catches for 57 yards as well. Wan'Dale Robinson continues to be the underneath guy. He had 11 targets total, continues to boost that total targets for him, 5 catches for 50 yards. But the Bengals defense, like I said, was just the main thing that won them this game. Again, their run game wasn't phenomenal. They do get 120 yards on the ground, but their running back, um, their ability to big scramble by Joe Burrow, he gets a 47-yard scramble for a touchdown. And like I said, that Chase Brown run late really helped him. Burrow was solid in this one, gets 208 yards. Just did enough to get the job done. T. Higgins has led the team in targets for 3 straight weeks now. He gets 7 catches for 77 yards. Jamar gets 5 for 72. Bengals pick up a win they needed to have with some of the teams they have coming up. They needed this win. They do have the Browns next week, the Eagles, the Raiders. These are all games that they have to win. They pretty much have to almost go 3-0 in these next games. Their schedule overall, they have a lot of winnable games looking at it now, but you need to win them. You can't. We've seen them choke in games they should win, especially like they did week 1 against the Patriots, but good win for the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean they have winnable games. They're sitting at 24th in strength of schedule remaining, so it's not the easiest ever, but it's also definitely winnable. This is a very odd game in general. The Bengals defense actually wins them a game here, which we definitely didn't expect. Good first drive for Burrow. He had that huge long run, but the Bengals offense just couldn't get it going in this one. Another horrid run game for the Bengals. I'm not going to let a 30-yard run by Chase Brown late in this one distract me from the fact that they did not have a good run game. It says a lot about the Giants' defense, what they were able to do to the Cincinnati offense. The Cincinnati offense, despite not having a great record and their defense sucking, the offense has been great all year outside of the Chiefs game. So, and I guess week 1 against the Pats too, but they've been pretty good. And the Giants went out there and stopped them. This Giants unit is actually deadly. Their defense is very, very, very good. The Giants should have won this game. I can't believe they scored just one touchdown. I know it's Daniel Jones, but this team was able to run the ball. Their O line is playing pretty much out of its mind right now. Daniel Jones has been solid the past few weeks. I cannot believe they were only able to score one touchdown in this game. A lack of a run game and no Malik Neighbors is really, really hurting them. I honestly, like I said, I am not the type of person who believes one person, one player, starter, non starter, best player, worst player. I don't think in football one player can drastically change a game. I don't, unless it's a quarterback, obviously. Outside of quarterback, I don't think one player can be the difference between a team losing and winning a game. It kind of seemed like that was a difference here, though, with Neighbors. It just seemed like it. Giants, their next few games, they have Eagles at Steelers, Commanders, Panthers. They can definitely go 2-2 in those games, and I would say they could definitely go 3-1 possibly in those games. We'll see what they can do. Their defense is going to keep them in every single game. I'm going to keep betting them to cover. They should have covered in this game. If that Chase Brown run doesn't go to the end zone, if he goes down after the first
I
down, the
was
Giants
hoping he
cover.
would go down.
The Giants cover. I almost lost fantasy and a bet on that. But regardless, the Bengals were very, very lucky to win this game. They're lucky their defense played out of their mind. They cannot rely on them in the future. But they must continue to grind out wins if they have a chance. Like I said, they're not on my dead teams list yet, but they're definitely on that border. Um,
Yeah, they also Greg Joseph can't hit a kick. That didn't help him.
yeah, definitely a
And the
problem.
the interception in the red zone killed him.
Yeah, absolutely. But moving on here to our studs and duds for week number 6. I have an honorable mention that I wanted to do, but I, I can't, I can't not go with Brian Branch this week. 2 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble. He's now the best player on this Lions defense. He's going to show it. He's a, I don't know exactly how old he is, but he's in his second year. He hasn't even played 20 games yet, and he plays like he's a 10-year vet. I, for the life of me, cannot comprehend how he fell to the 45th pick in that draft. I don't get it at all. He was an absolute steal. He's a phenomenal top 5 safety in the league. He's been fantastic. And really quickly, I forgot to say, despite the injury, Hutch still finished with the best PFF grade in that game. He's just a freak, man. Just a
Yeah,
freak.
shocker. There's a couple studs I was deciding between this week. Honorable mention to Brock Purdy, Chris Godwin. A couple of them guys are good, but I am going to go with the guy who we have been critical of at points in this season, but he's just a rookie. I'll go with Caleb Williams. Had maybe the best game of his career so far against the Jaguars in London. Throws for 4 touchdowns and an interception, but he looked great. 226 yards passing. He was great. Helped lead the Bears to one of their better offensive games in a long time. They put up 35 points, and he looked good.
Ray Davis. Ray Davis, baby. But I also want to say Sean Tucker too. 119 total yards,
Oh,
two
Sean
total
Tucker, yeah.
touchdowns. I if I did not branch, it would have been him.
Half the Buccaneers offense.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. And then my duds, I mentioned it earlier, Calvin Ridley. No receiving yards on 8 targets. Has finishes with zero point 0.9 fantasy points because he had 9 rushing yards. But yeah, brutal. It's been a brutal last 2.5 years now for Ridley.
Yeah, I'd say 3.5 years almost because you had the year with the mental health, then a year for or half a year for mental health, a year for
Oh, I
gambling,
forgot about that.
half year for mental health,
Wow.
a year for gambling. Last year he wasn't great with the Jags, and here we are.
Yeah, we're
So
at three now. Damn. Wow.
just not great for Calvin Ridley after all that hype that he had with Atlanta. For my dud, I'm sticking with the Titans, but I'm looking at the entire picture. I'm going Brian Callahan. I said it. Will Levis looked solid last season. Maybe not great, but he looked serviceable. He looked like a young quarterback that can develop. Right now, he's just done like a 180. He's looking like a young quarterback that you don't have much hope in. He's almost looking on a kind of like how Bryce Young was looking right before he got benched. Again, you should not bench Will Levis, just like I don't think they should have benched Bryce Young. Hopefully, he can work out of it. But right now, Brian Callahan isn't looking great, like a great hire so far for the Titans. Will Levis, I mean, his weapons got better in the offseason. His offensive line got better in the offseason. You put in a draft pick on J.C. Latham. You bring in Calvin Ridley, and this offense just hasn't looked very good at all.
I mean, it's truly wild to see, and I don't want to write off your boy yet or anything, but you look at that draft class already, and it's like we were like, wow, this is a loaded quarterback draft class. We have C.J. Stroud, who's been better than anybody couldn't have imagined, and then you have Bryce Young benched. Will Levis has been bad. Anthony Richardson's been hurt and up and down when it comes to passing. It's like, oh man, questionable. Who was the fifth quarterback drafted in that one? I can't rack my mind. I thought there was another one, but maybe I'm.
No, I think, well, I mean, if it was later.
Yeah, yeah, because it was just on three QBs and then Levis won the fourth. Yeah, but yeah, who would have thought? But I think at least one of those three being Young, Levis, and Richardson. I think at least one of them will figure it out. I doubt all three will be bad.
Hopefully it's Mr. Richardson.
Yeah, for you. Yeah. But that will about do it for this episode of the Engage 8 podcast. We will be back on Thursday to preview
Toto.
you for all the games of week 7 of the NFL season. Then we're going to recap week 7 of college football, as well as Monday Night Football, this game between the Jets and Bills that's going on right now. But until then, thank you for watching all the way to this point. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, all those links in our description for social media, Spotify, TikTok, and all that good stuff. And we'll see everybody in the next one.